It's been so long, long hard days. They don't say God's changed my ways.
I think the first feeling is that all the teams have pressure coming here. Even the actual favorites, even the best teams in the world, feel a lot of relief when they make it to the major. We had the experience with players, we had the great images coming out of Heroic, finally taking down Navi. So you can truly understand that this might be just the first step of a very long way, but it's a step that matters so much.
In general, for the EU RMR, I think we saw a lot of heavy hitters that are expected to make it to the major, in fact make it very deep into the major, stumble at the first hurdle a little bit, but the true class comes out when they then go into their decider games. You know, the example of Navi, the example of FaZe, you know, they won't stumble twice, usually. But I think it's quite interesting that a lot of the more unexpected teams have been able to upset those bigger teams, and that for me is the beauty of the RMR and the beauty of the major cycle.
I think the RMR went somewhat as expected in terms of we got most of the favorites going through, but we also got some exciting underdog stories, some stories that nearly happened but didn't really go through, and some like bitter losses that are going to be remembered, and then some people that made it to the major and will potentially be making history. And this is going to be those moments where you look back and think about these were the first steps for a team.
There's a lot of young players that now can grab their chance because they've been part of new rosters and they were able to qualify for the RMR, which is again part of the beauty, the fact that you get the experience here that you as a tier 2 or even a tier 3 team can hardly ever get. Like, when are you going to play against Navi on LAN? When are you going to play against these heavy hitters on LAN? Usually you're not, and some of them step up to that opportunity, and it's awesome to see.
Now on high,
FaZe has been showing up this year. Late last year, it was all about Navi, and those are two lineups that would be most exciting to see in the grand final and fight for the title. Is it going to be Navi defending it, or is it going to be FaZe taking it over as the new title contender, as the new best team in the world? But of course, there are other exciting teams. G2 is a team that we think about could do something, but they haven't looked great at their RMR. Vitality, similar thing. There are so many exciting players and teams that could maybe complicate the situation.
Big has been quite a surprise in the RMRA, and specifically Crimbo, who came here as still a rookie, has a lot to prove, has a lot to learn, and somehow ended up being the most impactful player we had in that RMR, I felt like. So his story is great, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he develops during the major.
I'm a big fan of underdogs overall. I think they help the competition overall, right? And I think it's also a mark of a great team if you stumble against them, like have you not given them enough respect, because teams that are underdogs will take that chance with open arms. I think the story of Forza is pretty nice, for instance. I was really excited and invested in the story of the Bad News Eagles, for instance, from LAN cafes to the RMR to the major.
G2 is a team that everyone expects a lot of. They make big moves, they have great players, but consistently they've failed to deliver at the final hurdle, to take the titles, to be a real championship winning team. Their latest changes are just another step in the direction of finally achieving not only a decent tournament win, but the major. With m0NESY coming in, Alexi, it's a new lineup. It's not the lineup that we saw in Stockholm, but even then maybe they're overperforming. Now they're revitalizing the team and they're rebuilding. Can they be good enough for this major? Will they be in the shape to challenge the best teams in the world? That is a question that we have to see answered in Antwerp.
I'm kind of on the fence when it comes to the final, because I want to see Navi being able to defend their title. I think this would be the greatest story we could have. But then if I have to choose between FaZe, who have been the best team in the world in 2022 so far, or a rematch against G2, for example, which delivered big time last time, I'm a little bit on the fence. I do believe that a Navi FaZe would be exceptional.
So I'm super excited. I really hope we get an extremely high quality major. And I think because of how the RMRs have gone and the season so far, there's so much to prove for any one of these teams. Just one coming to mind is Heroic. beating their demons a little bit in the RMR by taking out Navu to make it to the major. They're still struggling to shrug off that I guess trauma of can they actually win a huge final on LAN against the biggest opponent. So that's definitely a story I'll be following going into Belgium, and I hope we have an amazing tournament.